for Harry's. I know he's here. He was here a few minutes ago.
We are at 5 o'clock. We're waiting for one other committee member, and then we'll get this kicked off. No worries. All right. We will begin the Economic Development Committee meeting. And our first item on the agenda is the approval of the January 23rd, 2025 minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, the minutes have been approved. The next item on the agenda is the frontage treatments presentation, and looks like economic stimulus proposal, and we'll get a presentation.
All right, thank you. So I just want to introduce, this is Mason, excuse me, thank you. This is Mason Watt, he's a contractor in town, and we've been chit-chatting about this proposal. Let's say everybody's super jazzed about it. If that were the case, it's underneath the city manager's signing cap, but just out of deference to the council, it could be potentially a little bit transformative. So we wanted to present it at this committee meeting instead of just going and doing it if somebody liked it, right? We felt like we really needed to get some input from council members and staff. So Mason Watt, I'm going to hand it over to you. He's got some notes there, and I'm just going to operate the clicker here while Mason talks.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you, Mayor Buxton.
M4 Enterprises, by the way. So.
Yes. Yeah, my name is Mason Watt. I own and operate M4 Enterprises. I live here in Des Moines, and I mostly work local, Normandy Park, Des Moines, Federal Way. So what I want to talk with you guys about today is an opportunity that I've seen to do some public works projects in Des Moines as a way to stimulate some economic traffic down the main downtown corridor. Kind of nicknamed the charm factor. I think that's appropriate, as that's what we're trying to do. Make Des Moines really shine, as it were. So what I've found from talking with a lot of different people, I'm also on the PTSA, Des Moines Elementary. I volunteer heavily with lots of different student and teaching groups. There's a lot going on in Washington over the next few years. Mainly FIFA is coming. 2026, there's going to be a huge influx of people. I kind of see this as a way to kind of put a deadline on when we're trying to get some of this stuff done. What I see a lot and what I hear from a lot of parents that I talk to is that they all really love Des Moines. We all really love Des Moines. That's one thing we can all agree upon. What we're finding, though, is that it's lacking some of the things that tie the city together as a whole. A lot of the people I've spoke with say there isn't much to do downtown, which is debatable depending on who you're with. But what I see is that there's no major draw downtown. There isn't one single unifying thing that says this is Des Moines. As you walk up and down it, you see that there's kind of patchworks of businesses. There's a block that has some thriving small businesses, and then there's kind of a big dead area. And then there's another block where there's kind of businesses, and then on the other side of the street, there's a dead area. So what I've talked with some of the business owners, what I as a business owner here feel is that we need to be doing our best to try and promote pedestrian activity throughout the city. And one of the ways we can do that is by creating some small little parklets in the easement spaces in front of these unused vacant properties. I have done something similar like this when I was much younger. I helped build a pocket park under the Ballard Bridge, and it stayed there for about 12 years before the city then retook over the property and used it as storage for some maintenance stuff. So I have seen this happen, and I have seen it work, and it's amazing how much creating just a small little park section or structure can really change the environment. So what we are proposing, or what I am proposing, is building some trellis structures, kind of pergola trellises. This would be one example. This would be kind of the hope to build a pilot project very similar to this. And what these are designed to do is create a visual screen in front of some of the unused properties. One of the things I've really seen that I like about Des Moines is that there are starting to be more structures like this, and I think we can capitalize on kind of a movement that businesses are already having by creating these kinds of things. So we have some, things that we can promote here in the prototype. Sculpture, I think, is amazing. It can help create little ties, things to identify a certain strip with. We can have, visual platforms to display knowledge about the city. We can provide benches in some of these areas, promote rest and places for people to sit and absorb the city and all it has to offer. And then we can also use these as a way to create visual barriers. Not hard barriers to keep people out, that's the job of the property owner, but these would be more just trying to create a screen so that you don't see the overgrown blackberries quite as much. So we have some examples of some mock-ups that we've done, some areas that we think could really be addressed. I would love to see this turned into something like this, where we have maybe just a single line of posts, not maybe a 4-foot deep section, but just a single line, and then we can use 2x4s or some other material to create a visual screen, maybe emulating the waves or some of the other art that's around. There's the pillar right across the street from there that has the silver metal cut salmon as they're climbing up. That could be something incorporated into this to make it seem like it's all very purposeful. Another example would be this next one. Oh. So here we have a pretty big stretch in Des Moines that is, this is what it looks like. What I see is a retaining wall that needs some work. I see, just a lot of unmanicured lawn. And so I think with some of these trellis structures, we could really turn this into something that was a bridge between one area of downtown to the next area of downtown. Back to, what residents want. One of the things I do a lot is I bounce ideas off my kids. They're very vocal and have a lot to say. One of the things they talk about all the time is that there's nothing for kids to do. And I think this is something that we could very much incorporate opportunities for children and for learning. Specifically looking at creating a few of these things and incorporating ideas like seek and find kind of stuff like they have at the new ship that got put in at the community center. There's little icons. You have to find a bee and a wolf and a different thing. So those are some things. If we build one, we can put those all over the single one and have a little placard that says, can you find the stuff? If we build more of them, we could expand that idea and we could create a walkthrough where you have to find the 10 things that are hidden, the Easter eggs that are hidden around the city in these kind of little parklets. So we could take this, which is right next to the Edward Jones. They've already done a great job of building something I think is really attractive, and we could add on to it. The goal would be to try and mirror that same style, make some sort of stylistic theme decision about how these are going to be made, and then reproduce that every time as a way to build unity visually throughout the city. If you see one here and then you see one a little further down, that can really make that whole area look very purposeful. One of the areas I think has done it really, really well is Point Ruston. I saw the way they changed that. I used to live over in Tacoma and saw it before it was what it was, and it was rough. It was not as usable friendly as it is now. And so I see, what they did there, and I look at this as a way that we could kind of create the same feel of a unified, continuous city. So not only are these attractive, I feel, or could be, I think they can be used in a wide variety of ways and to address a wide variety of situations. They can be built in segments, and they can offer lots of different types of art and sculpture and places for things to go. Hopefully the idea being that if we have decorative things along the sides of the sidewalks, people will want to walk and use the sides of the sidewalks, park in one area, take a bus here, and then stroll around the city, maybe make their way down to the water. These could be seen as kind of a way to help funnel and coach people about where we're trying to have them go, which is kind of the main corridors of downtown, and then hopefully, down Waterland Way to enjoy the marine area and everything we're doing down there. Again, it's something that's already happening in the community, so we would be, participating in something that already has kind of a movement. Those were some examples in front of businesses. Here we have one that is, at the main intersection corner there, the north corner. I really like the look of those, but what I do see is that they're so far back, they're not really a prominent thing. They don't really create that place, a meeting spot where you could have a bench or, something like that. As I'm talking about meeting spots and, some of the things these could offer, one of the things that really comes to mind is how we could support our diverse community that's here. I was a EMT some years back, and I dealt a lot with people with mobility challenges. And one of the things I see is an opportunity where Des Moines could embrace the ease of enjoyment for all people. Here we have benches. Those could be used by anybody. We could also dedicate a section to maybe a wheelchair pull-off or a bench with a wheelchair pull-off where somebody could pull in and park, and then maybe somebody accompanying them could sit next to them as well. I don't think it would be too hard to make things like that, and it would really provide a great space for the ADA community. And it's something that actually the city could bolster as a way to make the city well known. If you look online in Washington for ADA recreational opportunities, Des Moines, the water park, the downtown corridor could be listed as one, if we make it possible. Some of the different things that could be added, there's lots of different ways these things can be modified. We can build 8-foot sections, 16-foot sections with, little 4-foot sections for either art that is provided by the community. I've already talked to several muralists and people I know, and they would love nothing more than to have some sort of place where they could display art. I've also put a call out to the Historical Society. I think it would be really awesome if we could engage in the history of Des Moines and really promote that. When I think about these things, I think about heritage and things that we look fondly back in history. You have to make them happen in order for us to look back on them. This is something we can do now, and it can be enjoyed for years to come, and it can be taken down and moved if necessary. But it's something that people can buy into, the community can buy into. You can say, hey, 15 years ago, I bought a medallion and I hung it on that fence, and there it still is. Whether it's on that specific fence or we take that whole section and move it if the place is getting developed, that idea, the chain link fence with your medallion, could be found somewhere in the city. As we're talking about places to rest, here we have these benches. I love these. I think they're great. I see a lot of people using them up at the Des Moines Community Center Park there. I think they're attractive. They last a long time, and they provide a good service and an excellent opportunity for people to, again, buy in and donate to the community that they live in. So here are some examples of just kind of the versatility of what we can do. This would be a very small one. This could be just a single standalone, or it could be linked together. It's hard to talk about any kind of exact costs right now, but these are just some kind of ballpark ideas, just looking at materials and what can be made with those. I have already talked with a bunch of local businesses and working with them to look at subsidizing materials for a prototype. and using that as a way to also generate and formulate those business relationships that we could use in the future for future installments. I've talked to Lowe's, I've talked to Dunn Lumber, I've got calls out to several different metal fabrication companies for building the actual medallions. They also do laser cutting of 4x8 sheets where we could have, you know, a giant stainless steel sheet with salmon cut out or something else mounted between the 4x4s or 4x6s. And they are excited about this opportunity. The businesses I talk to, they want to buy in, they want to see it, they would love to participate in Des Moines, they would love to get their name on something that they helped create in the community. So much so that one of the metal fabrication places was asking if we would mind if a national PR team came out so they could make a video and then use this to broadcast how their company helps communities nationally. So this would be kind of a double panel. You know, and here again, you can see the vertical slats as a way to just kind of create a visual obstruction there. And then, you know, they can just continue to get bigger. The great thing about it is that it's all very predictable cost increases, and it's materials that are readily available. They're also easy to repair and fairly easy to maintain. We could paint them initially, the color of your choice. I think it would be great if they were eventually all the same, but that being said, we could open it up to also another way to build community, similar to the way that they've had the pigs or the cows that show up in communities and they're painted by a specific business or donor group. We could say, okay, you're going to sponsor and buy this whole pergola, and then they could paint maybe the columns of it in a decorative way or something like that. So again, there's more and more ways that you could expand and have different ways of community buy-in. With the prototype, I really hope to also work with you guys about trying to find a roadmap that we can follow for future builds. You know, I think the site here, 2217, just south of the Edward Jones, would be a great kind of test site. The sidewalk there is already kind of primed for it. It's broken up in several sections. We can build neatly in that easement. And I think it would be great to add on, you know, first to something that's already there. Then it even looks stronger and really shows how we can take this idea that's already there and expand it. So I guess what we're asking is permission, mostly. You know, my wife chides me, but I'm definitely a, you know, go ahead and get it done kind of guy, and I need to ask permission for this, so here we go. You know, I'm trying to make it as easy as possible. I've gone and talked with a lot of different people. I hear a lot of people that really think this would be a great thing to do. You know, it's not without its costs. I think we could probably get a really good prototype built for around $15,000, and that would be a great way to enter into this conversation with the community. We can provide a full-size working example of what we're talking about. We can provide different sections that display the different things that could be there. We could make you know, integrated benches and really use a prototype as a way to sell the rest of these things. And it will also help us really define what those costs are, how much this actually costs to do. You know, there's the material costs that are involved, but then there's also the labor to do it. I've been talking with some people at the high schools and then also at the Boy Scout troops that are in the area. They think this is a great idea. They would love to have community service projects that they could get involved in with the community. High school graduates need a certain number of service hours. This is something that we could advertise to them. They could show up, they could work with real business contractors and businesses in the area, forming relationships with the young people, and then they get to participate in building something that is around a pivotal time in anybody's age, and you know, something that hopefully they can look back fondly on, you know, years later. I was actually just talking with a buddy of mine I met here who used to go to Des Moines Elementary, and he's, you know, was basically saying he's been waiting for something like this for a long time. I know when I moved here, I saw all the potential Des Moines had to offer. What I see is that it's taken a lot longer to realize some of the positive things that we could be doing. I think this is a pretty cost-effective thing that could realize a lot of benefit and change. So I guess at this time, I'd like to open it up if anybody has any questions.
Just really quick, did you want to mention the, first
yes.
this, go ahead.
I want to give a shout out to Studio Iva Murphy. I've been working with her. She's a great CAD designer. She was the one who made all these renderings and did the image overlays. She's also a local business here in the Normandy Park area, and I suggest you look her up if you have a chance. So.
Deputy Mayor Steinmetz. Oh, sorry.
I'm the chair. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Steinmetz, please.
Reminder, Chair.
Well, I was looking at you.
Yeah,
I understand. I'm listening.
Thank you.
Please and thank you.
Love the idea. I think it's a very cool idea and a fairly inexpensive way to get something done. You know, because I do think that a lot of people are kind of waiting for something to happen, and the city is looking at big projects, which take a lot longer. So I like the practicality of it, and I like the look of it that you're suggesting here. But given the weather last weekend, and you're talking about these things we can take them down, move them somewhere else. Are these structures going to be able to take 50, 60 mile an hour winds that come through town?
I mean, the ones that are in front of Edward Jones already have.
Okay, but
These
they're,
would be
yeah.
constructed and built very, very similar. When I say that they're permanent, semi-permanent, what I mean is that a chainsaw to the base of it, and we can cut the 6x6s and move the structure and make it possible for somebody to develop. You know, we're just sinking posts in the ground.
Okay.
You know, signposts are done the same way all throughout the city, and they seem to work okay. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And then I like the idea of involving the high school students and the Boy Scouts and things like that, because I just think there's something about when you're giving back to your community, you make that connection to it. Who are the people that would be supervising? Are you volunteering to supervise, and are you going to get paid for that? Are city staff need to be supervising that? And
Yeah.
you know, and are there any legal issues, you know, that could get involved in terms of liability if somebody gets hurt or God forbid a structure collapses?
And those are great questions.
Mhm.
And I want to, you know, talk with you guys, the people who know about what some of these hurdles might be. You know, it's easy, you know, for me to go out and build something, but, you know, these are the liability concerns that you guys need to worry about, and we do as well. I think they're all addressable. Yeah, I am a leader for the Cub Scout troop that my kids are in. I've already talked with the leaders there. They're pretty self-sufficient once you get them on site. You know, they have their parents who are showing up looking after them. You know, I've led small groups in a work project before. For the prototype, you know, I'm willing to basically volunteer my time and get this done. I want to see what the community has to say. After that, yeah, I would, you know, love to be able to pay for all the services that are being put into building it. You know, it also continually provides an opportunity for businesses to buy in. You know, we're not saying you have to just buy a medallion as a business or donate some materials. If you want to buy an entire section of the structure and build one, then great. You can buy an entire 16-foot section, and then that business can participate that way. You know, I've talked with a few of the metal fabrication companies. Like I said, they're willing to do this for material cost, or even just do it if we're just able to allow them to come in and use it as a PR move. Some of the, you know, I've talked with Sherwin-Williams as well. They like this idea as well. They have budgets built into their corporate structure that support these kinds of things, and these projects definitely qualify. You know, so they were talking about doing percentage markups, or, you know, giving us the materials at wholesale. You know, the labor is definitely a thing, but like I said, I mean, we have an endless supply of high school students who are going to need service hours. Again, you know, these are young people who are, you know, fairly self-sufficient, and I think with some, you know, direction, they could really help to build these things. I know programs like this have happened before. I'm not exactly sure the roadmap we're going to have to take to get this done, but, you know, it's, I think, possible for sure.
Yeah, Mount Rainier has a really good high school football coach who's great at getting his team involved in doing community stuff. So, you know, that's a real way to get it organized, and they're used to being bossed, so to speak, coached.
Oh.
Coached, let me get that.
Yeah, yeah,
You
I
know,
mean,
so-
you have to have somebody telling everyone what to do. But like I said, I've already talked with several other contracting businesses in the area who specialize in framing houses and things, and they're also willing to donate their time for a prototype project, to at least see, what it costs and what the community says about it.
Okay, good. I really like the idea. Thank you for bringing it.
Yeah, thank you.
No questions?
All right. Well, I do like the project idea, but being 30 years in the construction industry, I do know that $15,000 for what you're proposing is not feasible. I'm looking at the building department. Building department's going to need engineering. They're going to need plans. They're going to need everything like that. So are we in kinding the permits that are going to need to be pulled? Are we, as the city, taking on the upkeep of this thing? Has PD been consulted on this, on when you build a structure that is a overhang, with the homeless crisis that we have, and our PD being able to stave that off in downtown for the most part, and keep the highway clean? Have they been consulted? We hear from the marina tenants of how teens gather constantly down in the marina and the loud noises. This is another gathering place. Are we going to hear from the tenants up on the hill now that they're gathering all over the place? I mean, it snowballs when you start looking at the public safety aspect of this, and the public safety basically, right? Because that takes into account what Deputy Mayor Steinmetz was saying with 60-mile-an-hour winds blowing the structure over onto somebody, the engineering that has to go through the building department signing off on it. And I mean, the challenges, I don't think have been fully vetted. And so I mean.
I agree. I have not fully thought out the web of challenges that we will encounter. I don't think it would have been appropriate for me to do that at this stage. We are still in the early phases of figuring out viability for this. I like to think that it is, because I want this to happen. I'm open to suggestions about problems that we could incur. You bring up a good point about covered structures and the homeless community and vagrant activity. We have other structures, and we don't ask KeyBank to tear down their open atrium. We don't see people harboring in the trellis structures that are by the boat already. They aren't in the Isla Una parking lot. So we can go about this being scared about how they might be misused. I like to try and think about how they could also be used to promote public safety and not deter from it. There's a lot of research that shows that community art and places that look purposeful improve perceptions of public safety. And so I'm not saying that they are going to make improvements in public safety, but they are a good way that we can promote that we are a city who cares what it looks like, and that we have community art as a way to show that this is a safe space.
Understood, but all but one of those that you mentioned was on private property and is deemed to be maintained by the property owner, which would be KeyBank, Iluna, and Edward Jones, and all they're deemed to maintain that. And so a structure on city property, the boat, is maintained by our city staff, which costs down the road. I mean, replacement, and we've heard from our Redondo residents about painting the gazebo down there, and the fact that we don't have city staff or city resources to do that, and so they take it on themselves. So I understand where you're coming from, but you have to understand on my side of the thing, being on the council for 12 years, the ebb and flow, and that we just cut $2.5 million out of the budget, which we got rid of officers, we got rid of a ton of staff, and then moved on from there. So we really don't have the resources right now to do any kind of upkeep or to put any kind of money into something like that. So I mean, that's where I'm at, is the fiscal and the upkeep and the public safety portion of it.
Yeah. I mean, you know, absolutely. We have to find a way to pay for it. It has to be viable. No doubt there. You know, the city is in charge of upkeeping these things. I don't know how much work has gone into upkeeping the trellis structures by the boat, but what I see is they have looked the same for years without much being done to them.
We've
you know,
had the
these-
parking lot in City Hall on the program to be replaced for the last 10 years. And it's nasty. It hasn't been. That's my point. We don't have the money for it. So unless it's going to be private and paid for and they're going to upkeep it, and I'm not, your idea is great. Absolutely 100%. But it's a challenge for me right now.
Absolutely. Like I said, it's going to be a challenge, but I think it's a challenge worth taking on. We can't not take steps to better the city, to make it look better, because we don't exactly know how we're going to get there yet. I'm not scared of how to pay for it. I think we can find community members. We can do a GoFundMe page. $15,000, $20,000 is not that much, and I think we could get buy-in from the community if we had some sort of way to tie it to the city council and make it seem more legitimate. Right now, it's me going around as a single guy asking people to support a good idea. If we get the city council, if we get the development committee, economic development committee, to say that yes, we're okay with looking into this as an idea, I think we'll be surprised about how much community input and involvement we get, and in really good ways.
I
understand there's maintenance down the road.
There's maintenance down the road, and there's engineering costs, and who's going to pay for that? And it becomes, it gets built. It looks great for the first 5 years, and then what's going to happen to it after 5 years, 10 years, and when we just got to take a chainsaw to it and cut it down, then it's on us, right?
Exactly, but that's the beauty of it being a permanent, semi-permanent solution. My goal is 5 years out. I'm looking at FIFA 2026 and the people that are coming. I'm looking at being able to make our city look better now, right? If it's a good idea for 2 years, that's a good idea for 2 years, right? We've engaged the community in public discussion. We have shown that the council and the city is trying to do things to make the city look better. You know, right now, there's a lot of attitude that things aren't getting done. We've run into huge problems with the other projects that we're trying to take on. That's not to say that, you know, those problems can't be solved, but this is a pretty easy win. This is something that we can get the community, again, jazzed up about. Oh, okay, here's something that we can do. These are relatively easy to put in. I believe they have some very small maintenance costs. Yes, you're right. Engineering will have to be done. I will go and consult some engineering firms, see if they'll donate their time to make it happen. These are all things that I think are opportunities for us to engage with the community and get more buy-in. You're right, they have to get paid for it. Let's try and talk to some of the businesses and see if we can set up a long-term payment plan, a long-term maintenance. Businesses go and they buy sections of road and they maintain those and they clear off the litter. This could also be set up as a similar thing.
Debbie, you have any comments?
Question for the city manager. Does the staff have the capacity now to sort of take this concept to the next step and put some more, you know, something a little more tangible to it? How much is this going to cost? What are we really looking at? How does it work? What, if there are any liability issues? It's not a huge project, but I also want to ask that question.
So I would say first, kudos to you. I mean, like, in my, I don't know, 20 years in city government, the number of times I've seen a citizen go to this much work, I can like count on one hand and have fingers left over, so wow. If the council said it was a priority, of course we'd make it happen. Right now, we are spread very thin in the capital project realm. Marina steps, pier, and whatever we're gonna talk about tonight with the triangle, we are flowing over capacity. However, I think what I heard was a real willingness to put in some effort. This does require a building permit. Councilmember Nutting's right. It does require that process, and there are fees with that we cannot waive. So even when the city does their own project, we pay fees. That being said, I think we can really try to make this as low red tape as possible. So if you were asking staff to manage it, I'd want to really talk about what the council's priorities are. If you're asking for staff to try to facilitate a prototype with as little red tape as possible, that is much more doable.
I'd propose the latter.
I would too.
I would as well.
And how do you feel about that, Mason?
I mean, I think if we can get something built and in place and get people at least talking with it and see if it's a priority of the community, you know, that's the only way we're gonna be able to know if this is something that we can project out forward or whether it's going to be a priority, is if we get one out there and we see what people say about it.
So I think what they're asking is you would be willing to take on the management of it and not
I mean, I have
super
already,
minimal,
so.
yeah, super minimal staff, just their staff is the red tape and then you're the management. And
I
that's,
will do my best, yes.
okay.
And then my final question is there's no room in the budget.
That was my next question.
So it's a statement and a question. There's absolutely no room in our budget for the next 2 years for any of this. So it's going to have to become 100% not on the city to take care of.
So like a GoFundMe or
Yeah.
a foundation or some kind of a partnership that works these, that
And,
it
and
falls under something.
keep in mind the 18 to 30% tariffs that they're putting on Canada, and state of Washington gets 85% plus of their building materials from Canada. If that goes into place, that $15,000, not even feasible.
All the more reason to do it sooner.
Those were comments. I love the idea.
It's
You
not- it's not rude.
you might think
see
that
these challenges. I don't have all the answers right now. What I'm looking for is more legitimacy. Is there a way that we can go forward so that I can continue to talk to the people, figure out what the challenges are gonna be, what the costs of the city are, and then I can start figuring out how we're gonna pay for them. I'm still trying to figure out the rough numbers myself, but I think it's, you know, a safe thing to say that this is positive for the community, and
I agree 100%. I might be Debbie Downer over here, but I'm here to state what nobody looks at is
I understand.
the stuff that's hidden behind the curtains.
Totally, I agree. There's cost to all projects, yes.
All right. Well, I think you got your marching orders.
Do we need to vote or head
No,
down?
I think it just,
No, and so just get some clarity, ask us some questions here. What do you think was just said to you, Mason?
What I am hoping was just said is that the Economic Development Committee has agreed to let me go and solicit businesses for advice and ways that they could volunteer and participate to make a prototype to show the city an idea that we're looking at floating further on down the line.
And then a visit to permitting.
Yep, so I think.
we have building department here and
Dan,
development. Do we-
approve it right now.
Be sitting next to.
Is there any comments that you would like to make, or,
I mean, I think you covered it. I mean, we will definitely, I can, I'll have to give my card.
We'll exchange that.
Okay.
We'll make the process as easy as possible for you.
We'll work with you.
But, I mean, you are gonna have to go through a process, but we'll do everything we can.
Absolutely.
that's the nice thing about our building department is their, how to get to yes,
Yeah.
so.
Perfect, yeah.
All right.
Good, we
I think
gave you
we're-
some legitimacy.
That's gonna go a long way. I mean, a lot of what the companies I've already been talking to is they want a formal letter saying what the project is, so that then they can start to tell what category of donation it falls into. A lot of the times, if it's under this tax or this cost bracket, they put this kind of donation for it, gift cards, that kind of thing. If it has a longer term goal, something that is bigger, then they look at more sustainable ways that they can give longer over time. So being able to, you know, even just present them this and an idea and say, yes, we are looking at this, the, you know, committee has seen this and I'm working with the city as we're figuring this out. That'll really help.
Yeah,
From the city manager? Is that?
Excuse me?
Mike, please.
Letter from the city manager or the mayor or?
Yeah, I mean, just the ability to say, if you have questions, please call the city manager. I'm working with the mayor in doing this. We are working with the Economic Development Committee to see if this is viable. And that alone will make it, you know, tied to the city and just give it more legitimacy instead of me just being myself.
I get that. I just,
So I guess as the chair, I'd direct the city manager to come up with a letter that we can have you sign. And if the mayor, Buxton, is needed to be on there too, as well, with contact information. Then, but I want it to go through city staff first before it gets distributed, please.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think it's, you know, it's up to the committee if, you know, you want to check in with the rest of the council, or if it's good here to proceed. I mean, I'll leave that up to you all.
I think, and these are my thoughts, I think that it's still in its infancy, and that maybe one more time back to the committee,
Okay.
and then we'll bring it back to council. So we have a fully vetted, I mean, I don't want,
Yeah,
because there might be some feedback that needs to come, and then that feedback can come back in front of the full council. And this is our plan, this is what we're doing, this is how it's gonna happen, kind of thing.
sounds
Yeah.
great.
Because there's still a ton to be done.
Absolutely, no, understood. I'm not looking to build this thing tomorrow, but I'm looking to start figuring out what the next steps are and how we could get this done. Just me personally, I would love my timeline to have the first one done in 6 months. I think that would be something that's possible. And then we can really, over the summer, start to get a lot of input from people who are both visiting the city and people who live here and are out using it.
You got your work cut out for you.
I know.
Have fun.
yes, absolutely.
All right, thank you so much. We gotta move on, we're running out of time here.
Thanks.
Mason, thank you.
Thank you, Mason. All right, next order of business is the Woodmont Development Agreement discussion. And staff will discuss a possible future of Woodmont Development Agreement.
Thank you, Chair. As you may remember, at the last meeting, we had a presentation regarding the Woodmont project by Mill Creek, if you remember. We've been chatting with them about the process moving forward, and the way which it moves forward within our municipal code. It talks about a planned unit development and a development agreement for mixed-use projects. In the past, the council has directed planned unit developments to go through the hearing examiner, but development agreements go to the city council. So we've been discussing different processes, and so we wanted to bring to you guys a suggestion on how to process these applications and these consolidated permits, and wanted to get your guys' direction on a process. So we've been chatting with them, and we suggested that we bring a development agreement to the city council in the beginning, basically, that talks about what they're doing, what was discussed at the last committee meeting, for instance, how much square footage would be in the retail. At their last presentation, that was the 7,500 commercial frontage. That includes any modified standards that they are requesting, such as the 50-foot height maximum, because the current in the code was a 55 height maximum, and they are only doing it at 50-foot height maximum, and anything else such as a recreational area modification, if there is any. They're meeting the total requirement, but there's a children's play area requirement in our code too. And so they would bring that to you in a DA request, as well as in that DA request, it would say that the planned unit development would go to the hearing examiner. And so we wanted to check with you, see how you guys felt about that, and see if you were good with that process, since that's what you've done in the past. We didn't want to start that process and write that out unless you guys felt comfortable with moving it forward as such.
So my comments to begin, and then I'll go to my colleagues, is that we changed the way that was happening because of what happened on that property prior. That's the old Rose's Diner property, right? That we're talking about. So it didn't go to council, and we ended up with what we were going to have, which was not desirable by any of the council members that, were you on
I
council at
wasn't
that
yet.
time? No. So
No,
I was the only
Melissa.
council member was on council, possibly Councilmember Mahoney. So I think that's the way it was. I'm fine with it being presented the way you're asking to, and then going in front of the hearings examiner, because they've vetted it through this committee prior to that. But I now ask the input from my colleagues, so. Mayor?
Oh, yeah, I'm fine too. Yeah,
Deputy Mayor?
is there any, what are the drawbacks? Who's gonna complain about this?
I'm not sure if there's any drawbacks. If there's anything you guys would like to see we want to ensure is within the plan unit development, we can include that in the DA. And those are things that you can let me know, so that you can make sure that it gets included when it gets to the hearing examiner. Those are the kinds of things, since it's a development agreement, it's negotiable. So if there's some things like you want a certain number of units or certain setbacks, but any deviation from the code would have to be in the DA anyways. So I'm not sure, you know, if there's concerns that the reason that the plan unit development would need to come to you, that we can make sure it's in the DA, because they're both
So council's gonna see
Requirements.
the DA before it goes to the hearings exam.
correct. It would go to you first, the DA, then they would take the rest of the applications to the hearing examiner.
Would that be in a quasi judicial form that
Correct.
it would come to us?
Yeah, the DA is fully,
Okay, so and then it'd go to the hearings examiner
Correct.
after we had our discussion and that kind of stuff.
you approve it completely.
Okay.
It doesn't go to the hearing examiner. You approve the development agreement, and that development agreement says they prepare the planned unit development design guideline, the design review process, and then SEPA, and we do all of that, and that goes to the hearing examiner for approval separately.
Rebecca, just to make sure we're super clear, because I've heard you say it goes to the committee, and I've heard you say it goes to the council as a whole. So where is the development agreement going?
Full council.
Okay.
Full council.
I apologize.
Deputy Mayor Steinmetz.
Yeah, the Woodmont Recovery Center is exactly why I ran the first time. That was, and, I mean, that, nobody saw that one coming, and it was a disaster. I mean, it was not something that the community supported, that the council would have supported, but they never got down. So I like the idea of bringing this to council beforehand. Couple of the things that I recall from last time is that there is a street that sort of, it now is a dead end on the side of this project. So it's a residential street
On the
that
back.
stops that, and more ingress and egress, I think, from this property, because it is so long, is probably a very good thing. But that'll have some impact on that neighborhood. You know, and I don't know the answer to how that all plays out, but I do think that, you know, there's gonna be ingress, egress, Pack Highway, and on, what is that, 16th? There's another street that comes onto the side that probably would be a good place to have to get connected.
Yeah, so those details would be the kind of details that would go at the hearing examiner through the traffic studies and the planned unit development.
Well, but if they want us to approve the DA,
Right. Well,
that's one of the things I wanna see.
Okay,
Yes.
and
That's what I'm trying to
Okay.
communicate, and I'm not trying to dictate, but I think that lot is such that it needs better ingress and egress than it's got.
okay.
And maybe there are creative ways to improve that, I don't know, but
I will let them know.
that's the one thing that I really remember looking at that.
I just helped finish up a project in Linwood that was long and narrow, like we're speaking about, and the fire department only required one more ingress and egress for them, but there was only one ingress and egress for PA, public, you know, so. And I'd want the least amount of impact to that small neighborhood that's abutting that property. So I get what you're saying.
I don't know, it's
Deputy
not a
Mayor.
question of what the fire department might require as a minimum, but I think that we need to look at ways to get cars in and out of there, because that's gonna be a problem.
We can ask them
Well, and
about
then-
including a traffic memo or something from a traffic
That would be good.
engineer at least.
Yep.
Mayor.
Just from a property management standpoint, I know managing properties that are that big, that one ingress and egress improves the safety factor incredibly.
100%.
You get an ingress and egress on 16th, and then on the highway, all of a sudden, it's a pass-through for all sorts of problems, and the people who live there become more vulnerable to snatch and grab of anything. So I do want to say there is a safety factor to too many in and outs.
It is gated.
Okay, one side would be gated. Or the entire
The
complex.
complex is gated.
So.
So the commercial, the residential piece is gated from the commercial in the front.
Oh, Okay,
Very good.
yeah,
Yeah, as long as we
At
follow,
least from what it's proposed at this.
yeah.
as long as we follow building code and we don't overstep our bounds,
I
then
think what we could,
I'm fine with
because
that.
Pack Highway can take quite a bit of additional traffic, so you may be able to just have the ingress and egress there and use the one on the back street as like an emergency, unless you feel really strongly like it needs to go to that back one. We can let the traffic engineers sort of look at it and see what can be handled.
We have codes in place and there's building codes in place. And as a council, we do not have the ability to overstep our bounds. So as long as it follows code and the building department and traffic study says it's okay, I'm fine with it.
Streamline.
All right, is that it for the Woodmont development?
Yes.
We got, well, we're supposed to be done, but do we have sound code discussion or?
Would you like,
We do, or we can move it back to next one, because I feel like this one will take at least 15, 20 minutes to go through, unless you all want to just
Yeah,
start it.
I don't wanna blaze over it, so, I wanna give the appropriate members time to speak, so, let's push that to the next agenda next month, and, we'll go from there.
Great.
All right, so that brings us to the end of our economic development meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
All right, we are adjourned. We'll see you guys next month. Thank you for everything.